Hi, I'm Paul Roberts, and this is Conscious Counseling 101. Good morning. Today I want to talk to you about a topic that if you turn this video off after the first couple of seconds, you won't understand and you probably will never get. But if you take the time to really listen to what I'm saying, it might occur to you. I want to talk to you about delusions, the delusions of mankind, self-perpetuated delusions that we all can have. I want to talk to you about how the delusions that each person possesses and believes in and uses to modify their thoughts and ideas and actions, and the transference that they do towards everyone else, and their acceptance to a certain degree of the delusion, and the incorporation into what they think and feel and believe, and how that modifies their actions and thoughts and everything else towards everyone else, and how this cycle continues throughout the relation that all mankind has had with one another, both now in the living world and the relation of all people through all time. Now, you can call the delusion an aid to people. You can call it an aid because if you are utilizing a delusion, it means you're placing your confidence in something to some degree that's going to help you. You feel it's going to help you, and this is why you do it. When you're coming into conscious awareness as a young person and making the transition from childhood to adulthood, there are many different ways, depending on your foundation, that you can make every choice that comes to you. And most people, I'm submitting to you, operate in a delusional realm because of comfort and need and requirement that you find there for yourself. The pool of delusional ideas is vast. Every single thing that someone could need or require to quell their spirit and give them confidence and aid them in their quest in life can be found in those pools of ideas. Those pools are vast, and they are connected to all the pools of ideas from all time. And the reason why they're connected is because every single idea that a person has ever had has been acted upon. And because it's been acted upon, that transference from the noticing of others of that idea and their reaction has been a part of the programming or the circuitry of the delusion of all mankind for all time. And we all have this on our plate as a potential blockade for us. If we look at what we have in front of us and we realize what it is, we don't want to just throw it away and say, oh, there's nothing good in there. Yes, it's the pool of all ideas. There are good things in that pool of all ideas. And every ill and evil is also in that pool of ideas. The entire knowledge base and understanding of all things of mankind throughout the ages is constantly being adjusted and added to that pool. The problem is you don't possess the capability of knowing what to get out of that pool that has value. And what most people do is they go running towards that pool full of thirst all the days of their life and absorb whatever it is that looks good to them and fill themselves up with it. And what happens is the concoction that you're creating, if you're not the master of it, if you're not the master of your intake, what will happen is enough intake will go into you before you become aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and it will be defining of you. It will be your master. What you'll be is made up of all these collections of ideas that you've used to soothe yourself, and this will be who you are all the days of your life unless you realize that. Break through the delusion and change it. Now, why do I talk about these things? Why do I counsel based on these things, these philosophical things, rather than just diving into the pool and working around with people with their ideas in that pool? I could do that too. I have a good understanding of all the ideas, good and bad, in that pool. I could do that. I could go that route. But that's the route everyone's going. So what I'm trying to make people see is that by realizing their potential for delusion, I find that some people get offended if you try to tell them that you know that they're wrong or that they're deluded. People aren't capable of wanting to hear that kind of thing because it immediately shatters their comfort level that they've taken, and all the work is lessened somehow for them that they've done with working with this pool of ideas their whole life. And then all of a sudden, because I'm just another person and they don't understand where I'm coming from, their tendency is to say, "What makes you think you know better?" This is what I'm sharing with you. This is what I want to share in this video. To some degree or another, and we don't have to just talk about religion, we don't have to just talk about atheism, we don't have to talk about what people do to quell themselves in their eternal ever after soul and beliefs and, you know, this type of thing. We don't have to talk about this. But to some degree or another, we should. Because whether you look at it as a secular way that you make up your mind about all things, or a religious way in the way that you're trying to relate to some intelligence form, a creator, and I'm talking about all religion, not just one or the other that you might identify with, but look at how all religion does that same thing, or attempts to do that same thing. What I'm trying to relate to you is that what you've done throughout your life is you've gone to that pool and you have taken what you can take from it for a very good reason. And if you're honest and truthful with yourself, you can come to understand what that reason is. If you understand what that reason is, you can take action like you've never taken before to go in a different direction. Let me explain to you the reason of why you go to that pool and use it to comfort you. And it's the same reason that I did initially too. I go to the pool because I know that I don't know anything. Now that's difficult to say to someone and still try to keep a conversation going. Because as soon as you say that, you've devalued yourself, not only in the way you come off, but in that person's mind that you're speaking with. As soon as you've devalued yourself to that level, your effectiveness takes a big risk at that point of not ever being effective. But if you hit them dead on and say, "Look, I know what you're doing," well, you've shot yourself down there too. Because as soon as you offend someone in that way and you try to say, "I know better," if you can't hand to them on a platter something that's ironclad that shows that you know better, they won't listen to you. The reason why they don't listen to you is because they're comforted by what they've already assembled for themselves. Now, I say comforted, but in a lot of ways, it's also a trap of comfort. It's a trap of certainty. It's a trap of, oh my gosh, this is the best I've been able to assimilate for myself of what I think and feel and believe and who I've become. And if you threaten this, I know nothing else that I can go to. If you're not a well-balanced intellectual person that considers all ideas, I call it a house of cards syndrome. If one thing is shaken, if that person allows one thing to be shaken, their whole philosophy and view of life is like a house of cards that comes crashing down. Now, some people have different levels of belief in all types of different ideas. And if one fails them, they can make a good quick shift and be well adjusted in another capacity. So that wouldn't be a house of cards victim, but that would be a victim that has a little more flexibility. If this one didn't work, well, this one will. Like, for instance, if aliens landed tomorrow and everybody knew it, could you adjust to that? Would you be able to be the same person? Have you always, if you can adjust to that, you would have, in order to adjust to that, you'd have to be able to say, "I've always considered it's a possibility, and so therefore I can adjust to it." Or, "I'm so easygoing, no matter what happens, I'll be fine," because it doesn't have any grander meaning in the whole scheme of things. Or something like that. Then you can adjust. If your whole world is set up on, it must be this way, and that can't be a part of it, but then it happens, then you come crashing down. Now, if you're a religious person, if you read the Bible, The Bible says, and I know there's a lot of other religious books, but the Bible, I'm just talking about this for right now. The Bible says that God has revealed things, and there are things that God hasn't revealed. So let's say you are a believer in the Bible, just for the sake of argument here. You should be able to believe as you do, but at the same time allow for everything else that you've been told by the God that you say you're believing in that could exist. So at the exact same time as you dip into that pool of delusion, you should be able to not only take out beliefs that could be, but at the same time you shouldn't be certain in them. You just experiment with them. You have a measure of faith towards them, and you utilize them for yourself. But at the same time, you don't delude yourself, because you are already exposing yourself to a system of beliefs that says right in it that there are things that are not available to us, that are made secret and left that way. So therefore, if you only take what comforts you, but don't take the whole thing into your possession, then you allow for the delusion to captivate you and trap you and snap you and break you if a revealing of something else comes in that you did not allow for because of your limited vision. So when you're going this route, you want to keep your vision open. If you're going to borrow from a tool from the pool, you've got to borrow in an understanding of that. You've got to know that it has all the capability of being a delusion. You've got to look at the level of comfort that the delusion could provide to an individual. And you've got to consider that when you grab towards that delusion. You can't use it in a practical sense and not be trapped by it unless you're on the outside looking in. When you're in the inside, you can't see any of those things. You think you know, and so you consider everything that you know, and you look around at all the things that you can draw from, and you can't get away from it far enough to look back and see what it is you're doing. So what I recommend to everybody that I counsel is for someone to get back and look at what it is they're doing, so that they can understand when they go and dabble in that pool of ideas what the ramifications can be. And what it is they're doing is they are doing what they need to do in life to maintain their comfort level, so that they don't have to deal with the idea that they don't know anything, and their fate and their soul and their body and their thoughts and everything is completely out of their hands to control. Now, you say, well, does this mean that you believe in determinism? No, I don't believe in it. I know what it is. But why do we have all this ability to think and do things? There must be some level of control that comes in based on choice or even chaotic randomness. So, what I want to talk about now is what people are doing to comfort themselves. They're saying, gosh, every single pool and every single idea in that pool has some possibility of validity. How do I choose? Will I fail if I choose wrongly? No. You'll only fail if you're in the pool and choose wrongly. If you're outside of the pool and you realize your potential for damage of dipping into that delusion, then you have a very good likelihood. If you're looking outside, you have a likelihood to accept what's in there and use it for the positive benefits that you can get out of it. But if you're in the pool, you have a very good likelihood of not seeing those benefits. So what I caution all people to do and direct their attention to first in their ability to self-help themselves is to say to them, you must be able to realize that you don't know for sure, and that anything you do, every single step of it, is only of faith and an inkling that you have some ability to choose properly. This is the thing that will break through the bondage of delusion. I'm not saying that the pool doesn't have viable things that can help you. It's everything good and everything bad. But to get away from it and look back in and understand it with a greater observation, objective power, will then give you the ability to pick and choose and know what you're doing at the time and make the best possible concoction, but know that you only believe in it and you don't know it. More on this shortly.